Before cold rooms, before ice houses, before salt became cheap and abundant, there was a living ally quietly at work in kitchens, cellars and mountain villages across the ancient world. This ally was not fire, smoke or brine. It was fungus, not decay, but controlled growth. The kind of growth that turns raw grain into nourishment, meat into something that lasts through winter, and beans into food that resists spoilage while becoming easier to digest. Long before people understood microbes, they learned through repetition that certain molds protected food instead of ruining it. Families guarded these cultures like inheritance. Lose it and you risk hunger. Keep it alive and you could survive seasons of scarcity. Today we call these organisms fungi. But to our ancestors they were simply the good growth, the difference between rot and preservation. In pre-industrial societies, food preservation was not about convenience. It was about survival. Meat spoiled fast, grains moulded unpredictably, and fats turned rancid. Yet certain moulds behaved differently. Instead of breaking food down into waste, they transformed it into something stable. These fungi consumed sugars first, produced acids or alcohols, and created environments hostile to dangerous bacteria. This is why fungal preservation appears independently across cultures. In East Asia, koji mold transformed rice and soybeans. In Europe, noble molds protected cheese and cured meats. In Africa, fermented grains relied on wild fungal cultures to stay edible for months. People did not need microscopes to see the results. Food preserved with the right fungus did not make them sick. It tasted better, stored longer, and often provided more energy. Aspergillus oryzae, known as koji, is one of the most important ancestral fungi in human history. It does something remarkable. It produces enzymes that break starches and proteins into simple sugars and amino acids. This process feeds fermentation while also preventing harmful microbes from gaining a foothold. In ancient Japan, China and Korea, koji allowed people to preserve soybeans, rice and grains without refrigeration. Miso, soy sauce, sake and fermented bean pastes all rely on this mould. The practical method was simple but precise. Cooked grains were cooled, inoculated with a small amount of active culture, and kept warm and humid for a day or two. Once the white mycelium spread, the food entered a stable state. From there, it could be salted, dried, or further fermented, lasting months or even years. Even today, survivalists can apply this by fermenting grains into miso-like pastes that store in cool rooms without electricity. In medieval Europe, another fungal strategy emerged. Penicillium species were encouraged on cheeses and dry-cured meats. These moulds form protective rinds that regulated moisture while producing natural antibiotics that suppressed pathogens. This is why traditional salami and aged cheeses could hang in stone cellars for entire winters. The fungus acted as a living shield. Meat was first salted lightly, then hung in environments with steady airflow and humidity. The right mould colonized the surface, locking in moisture while preventing rot. Modern practitioners can replicate this on a small scale by curing meat in controlled humidity spaces and introducing known safe cultures. This method uses far less salt than full preservation by brining, making it nutritionally valuable during long-term living. In Indonesia, rhizopus mold gave rise to tempe, a fermented soybean cake that stores longer than cooked beans and offers higher protein absorption. The fungus binds beans into a solid mass while neutralizing anti-nutrients that block digestion. The process requires soaking beans, removing skins, cooking lightly, and inoculating with starter. Once wrapped and kept warm, the fungus grows rapidly, sealing the food from spoilage. Dried tempeh could be stored far longer than raw legumes, making it a powerful survival food. This method is still accessible today and can be adapted using locally grown beans, making it relevant far beyond its original region. The brilliance of ancestral fungal preservation lies in its self-regulating nature. These molds outcompete harmful bacteria by consuming oxygen, lowering pH, and producing antimicrobial compounds. Unlike refrigeration, which merely slows decay, fungal preservation transforms food into a new, stable state. This is why ancient cultures relied on it consistently rather than as a backup. Once learned, it required no fuel, no ice, and no complex tools. Only clean handling, attention to temperature, and patience. For modern viewers interested in resilience, this ancient wisdom offers real options. Fermenting grains with koji allows long-term storage without freezers. Mold-protected cheeses and cured meats reduce reliance on electricity. Tempeh and fermented legumes provide protein security where refrigeration is unreliable. These methods also improve nutrient availability and gut health, something our ancestors recognized instinctively. Practicing them today reconnects us with a food system that thrives without constant energy input. The real lesson here is not nostalgia, it is redundancy. Our ancestors built food systems that did not collapse when one method failed. Fungus was not a last resort. It was a core technology. In a world facing rising energy costs and fragile supply chains, these old methods are not curiosities. They are tools worth recovering. If you found this deep dive valuable, support the channel by subscribing to Past to Live, sharing this video with fellow history and survival enthusiasts, and keeping these forgotten skills alive. The past still has work to do.